Hey, it's Scott from FamilyWheels.ca with another car, or in this case truck, review for your growing family, and this is the 2019 Ram Rebel. Now, Rebel is Ram's sort of off-road kitted out version of the Ram 1500, and as you can probably tell just by looking at it, it's a whole lot of truck. The folks at Ram have loaded it down with technology and features galore, but is a pickup of this size and stature, and particularly this model of truck, the right vehicle for your growing family? Well, there's only one way to find out. Let's check it out. So the 1500 is Ram's lightest duty pickup. Then there's the 2500 and the 3500. But to call this thing light duty, it's almost like an insult to it. And in terms of a family vehicle, it's anything but. It's a big truck by city standards, and this model, the Rebel, is Ram's off-road edition, so it comes with little extras that enhance its stature and presence for better or for worse. It comes standard with a 5.7-liter Hemi V8, makes 395 horsepower and 410 pound-feet of torque, and it has an 8-speed automatic tranny and has Ram's MDS system, which means that it shuts down cylinders in the engine when you're not using them in an effort to save gas, and believe me, it needs it. Compared to other vehicles you might be looking at for your family, you know, things like crossovers or SUVs and such, the fuel costs on a V8 equipped full-size pickup like this are gonna be quite high. Ram says to expect between 13 to 14 liters per 100 kilometers, that's combined city and highway driving. We actually got closer to 17 liters per 100 kilometers, that's 13.8 US miles per gallon. Though it is worth noting that it has been kind of snowy here in Vancouver, so we did have it in four-wheel drive a couple of times, but still, any way you slice it, this thing is thirsty. Now, I think if a full-size pickup is in your future, you should expect somewhere around these numbers in terms of economy. Like I said, it's a big motor that's moving a lot of weight. When I owned my F-150 EcoBoost, I think I averaged around the same. Sticking with the powertrain here for a sec, I'm gonna say that I'm not a huge fan of this MDS system. I mean, the truck has a lot of potential power, I guess it's accurate to say. It's got a Hemi V8. But when you actually need it, like when you step on it, it feels like all those horses and all that power is kind of hard to find. I guess I would equate it most to a delayed throttle response, but I suppose that's the trade-off if you want some improved economy. Speaking of improving the economy, and you knew this was coming at some point, how do you feel about a hybrid truck? Now let me stop you right there, because this model, the Ram Rebel, isn't one, but I bring it up because Ram are doing something really cool in some of the other trims available on the 1500. It's called e-Torque, and now again, this isn't available on the Rebel, which is a bit of a disappointment to me, because I actually think that the Rebel is the best looking truck in Ram's lineup. But if you like the idea of adding more power to your truck without necessarily increasing your fuel bill, and let's be honest, who wouldn't, this is something that might be for you. Essentially, e-Torque is an electric motor that's available on some of the Ram lineup that gives an extra boost of 90 to 130 foot-pounds of torque at low speed. Now, it's important to recognize that these numbers don't affect the truck's peak horsepower or torque numbers, but instead they widen the torque band so you have more power down low and across the band. I'm interested in it, and if you're looking at a Ram at all, it might be something you want to test out. As you might have expected, even without that e-Torque system, the Ram can tow, and it can tow a lot. Up to 5,144 kilograms, that's 11,340 pounds. So if you're the type of family that might want to drag around a trailer or a boat, you're not likely to have a problem here, and you can also put up to 835 kilos, that's 1,840 pounds in the bed. The Rebel comes standard with four-wheel drive as well, which for me and my family is hugely important. If you ski or you camp or you like the outdoors, or even if you just live somewhere where the weather can get pretty nasty, having four-wheel drive is a serious game changer. If you've never had it, you don't know what you're missing. You also get an electronic locking rear differential, skid plates on the transfer case, steering system, and fuel tank, and this blacked out detailing that really set it off. Like I mentioned before, for my money, the Rebel is the best looking Ram of the bunch. Inside the truck, the interior is very distinct. Our model has a mix of red and black leather and is trimmed out with this red metallic looking trim. We also get these Rebel badges all over the place, which is honestly a bit overkill for me. Just comes off as a bit gaudy. Otherwise, it's all very useful and sensible. Of course, there's a ton of room, wonderfully laid out storage. This center console is great, really huge, multiple layers and spaces for storage. The inner tray and cup holders slide to help you configure the space, and the cell phone holder is wonderful. Lots of places to plug in phones and accessories, and there's also a standardized house outlet in here too, which I love. Wonderful panoramic moonroof, the seats are comfy as heck. The driver's side is power, but the passenger side is manual. The driver also does get power adjustable pedals too. In the back, tons of room for all your passengers here, and I love the way the rear seats fold up and down in full-size pickups like this. In the Ram, it's super easy. You can do it with one hand, and it makes for so much usable room. In our rear-facing car seat test, obviously no problems here. Tons of space, and this is with the front seat slid all the way back. We measured 33 inches from the back of the seat to the glove box, and in our standardized trunk test, again, obviously no problem. All of our family gear took only a fraction of the 5'7" box. Now, this model came equipped with a tonneau cover, and if you're thinking of getting a truck, I would definitely budget an extra $1,000 or so to get a good one of these. They can really protect your stuff and make your truck box so much more versatile and usable. But say you didn't want to store all your gear back here. Maybe it's raining or you're worried about it growing legs. Well, we tested out the rear of the cab as well, and again, tons of storage here too. We could manage it all and still have room for 2 people on the bench seat. In our decibel test, the Ram hit 66 dB at 100 kilometers, but take note of the tires here. These are Goodyear Wrangler 275/70 R18s, and they're pretty meaty all-terrain tires, which is what I'd want in a truck like this, but they don't exactly make for a quiet ride. Moving on to the infotainment system, it has its pluses and its minuses. If you're a person who reads online message boards or cares about the opinions of the people on the internet at all, you might have heard about how great this thing is supposed to be, how bright it is, how responsive, and how accurate it is. And I'll be honest, all that stuff is true. The screen is very bright and clear, and its responsiveness and accuracy are unmatched in my opinion. The voice direction, again, very accurate, and its connectivity to your phone doesn't miss a beat. It's all really great, but there are some things about it that still really rubbed me the wrong way. The steering wheel controls are supposed to make my life easier, but in reality, the system they have here just complicates things. There's a button on the back side of the wheel to scroll through station presets, but it only lets you scroll one way, not back and forth, which I found really annoying. There's very few actual buttons. It's mostly just the buttons on the touchscreen. We do get a big volume knob and a sort of tune, browse, enter knob, but doing things like switching between tracks or stations or functions in the infotainment system, I found myself just reaching for the touchscreen buttons. It was kind of the easiest option, but to be honest, they're too small, too far away, and a bit too distracting to be considered convenient when compared to other models of truck that sort of have this steering wheel control thing sorted out. Now, if I drove the Ram for a couple of months, I might get used to this, but if you're actually considering buying one of these things, it's certainly something that I would want to check out. Support for Android Auto and Apple CarPlay are available, as is nav, a Wi-Fi hotspot, parking and blind spot sensors, a rear backup camera, and a really cool feature that I love. The truck has adjustable ride height. It's air powered. There are 4 modes that you can control from these switches in the cab. There's an entry-exit mode, Aero, which is the next height, normal height, and then the top, off-road mode. The truck goes up and down quick, and I found that it did actually make things easier when getting kids in and out of the back to lower the truck down. Even cooler is that you can bring the truck down to entry level by using a switch on the key. Just love that. Also on the key, there's a remote start button, which is a huge plus in the wintertime. Drive-wise, I love it. It's a great big truck. When my nephew first saw it, he called it a monster truck, which made me feel pretty cool. You're a huge presence on the road. It feels safe, which of course is a concern if you have a family, and it also just feels really capable, which is one of my favorite things about a truck. You just know that you're never going to be held back by crappy weather or not having enough room for all your gear or for all your people. So all of that is awesome. It's just really, really usable. But of course, there's a trade-off for all of that. Try parallel parking this thing on a street downtown or in an underground parkade. I mean, yeah, it's doable, but it's gonna take you some practice, and be prepared for a few door dings. And the cost of running something like this every day is certainly considerable, especially with gas prices the way they are. And of course, it's not cheap either. The Rebel starts at 60,795 Canadian, but with all the bells and whistles that this one has, we're looking at $73,305 Canadian. So yeah, it's a bit of an investment to say the least. I mean, it'll certainly get you and yours where you need to go in relative comfort and style. And if you can get used to some of those drawbacks that I mentioned before, it's probably a really great family vehicle. Just be prepared to be that person that everyone calls when they need a hand moving. For FamilyWheels.ca, I'm Scott.